evening, brothers and sisters. I want to first of all say I'm very, very happy to be here with you on this first Black Christ conference. I want to thank Brother Pierre, all the presenters, and say right off that the main thing that thrills me about being involved in this kind of program is that I've always looked forward to sharing with African Americans, with people of color in particular. Not that that means it's exclusive to any one group. There's a lot of confusion with regards to the color, the racial origins of Mary, Jesus in general. One of the things that I want to place a lot of great emphasis on today is getting some clarity on the historical origins of the Mother, the Mother Mary, or the person whom we call the Mother Mary, and the baby Jesus. I want to place a lot of emphasis today on principles, because we have a tendency to get caught up in the cultural perspective and forget the principles. Most of us here have studied enough to know that there's a lot lacking with regards to the historical aspects of Christianity and other religions in general. But if we look at the principles, we can even get some clarity on what's accurate in each one of the religions. Sister Myra, who I'm really glad that I had a chance to catch part of her presentation today, you know. And I liked following her because of the yin-yang balance, because, you know, in the early temples, you always had a priest and a priestess, priest. You never just had a male figure doing it, you know. As a matter of fact, one of the problems with the church today is they seem to forget that you have to have both the yin and yang in order to really put the teachings out there right. What we need to really get into the primary consideration has to be the principles. And when you stick to principles, then you understand that even though the historical aspects are not correct, the principle. So if you find a principle, for example, if you find one religion saying that its way is the only way, and that it was this only begotten Son, and you know that doesn't coincide with all the other systems, you know there's something wrong with that particular religion. Okay? So I want to place a great emphasis on that. I want to provide historical evidence that we know that the Black Madonna, whoever the picture was drawn to portray, we know that it was in Africa. This picture, they claim, is the oldest picture of the Black Madonna and Child. In the 14th century, they want to believe, they say that St. Luke painted it. Whoever did it, it's a very old painting. I was sitting one evening in New York in 1982, and our waitress was Polish. And I, at the time, was selling these in New York City. And the waitress stopped at the table. She said, "Oh, Our Lady of Sheshikowa," right away. When I tried to sell these pictures to African Americans and other people here, they didn't know who it was. What is that? You know. So this points out the fact that in Poland, and you know the present Pope, Poland, okay, this picture is revered in France, in Spain, in Italy, in Montserrat, okay? The main place that we have this Caucasian figure of the mother and child is here, all right? Then we have to go into what the picture actually represents from a symbolical point of view, all right? Because as Sister was saying, one of the major problems we have in the church today is we have little or no focus on religious symbolism. There's a language of religious symbolism that you have to know, like you have to know how to read music before you can read a song, before you can play a song. So it's because of this confusion that we have several different interpretations of one scripture in one block of churches. And that's the problem. Whereas you can get 75 musicians to play one song who can't speak the same language, and they all will hit the same note. And so what should be happening is each religious teacher, before he or she can be classified as such, should be taught the language of religious symbolism. That is the missing link in the churches today, really so. I'm going to give a talk, and I'm going to follow Sister Myra's lead. I'm going to give a talk on Palm Sunday, on the symbolism of Palm Sunday and Easter. I'm not going to tell you that today, but I'm just telling you one part of it, okay? For example, we see people wearing palm on Palm Sunday. What are they wearing palm for? If you ask them, they don't even know. Palm is a symbol of victory. And so, because it's from the highest tree that has a crown on it. And so we wear palm on Palm Sunday to commemorate, to celebrate the victory we've had over our animal self. And the rest you'll get on Palm Sunday. But that's an example. So there's a whole language of it. And most of the scriptures are written in the language of religious symbolism. And you cannot understand them unless you understand symbolism. Unless you understand what the serpent means, you won't understand what it means in Genesis, in the medical caduceus. You won't understand it in the Egyptian headdress. You won't understand it. But if you do, you'll understand the whole meaning of it. So that's what we have to do. Okay? I have been studying since 1960. I went to India in 1968 to see a teacher in the Himalayan mountains who I dreamt of in 64. I came back, set up a school in Harlem, and about 2 years after I was open, I came to really understand that if you're going to help African Americans, because I was teaching yoga, that you have to go, if you want to get the masses, through Christianity. And you can go to them by helping them understand it from a deeper level. So I'm not about trying to, even though I know many that we will discuss in terms of the possibility of the way the system was transported from Egypt, from Krishna, you know, the whole situation, okay? But I also know that if we want to help our folks, African Americans, people of color, we have to help them understand this system from a deeper perspective and show them how they can use it. Because the main thing are the principles. So if we adopt those, if we understand those, then we can help folks in a big way. My mom, for example, and my family would not hear anything I had to say about metaphysics, esoteric things, until I went to them through Jesus. I performed their funeral one time, or the many I performed on my family growing up in Harlem, and on my family. And what happened was, this time I said, okay, rather than being the weird member of the family, I'm going to go to them through Jesus. So I went and I told them about karma, reincarnation, all those. I went through Jesus. They said, oh, it's the greatest funeral you ever preached. I said, but I said the same thing. I just said it through the Bible and through Jesus. And so we can really help our folks a lot. And just as Sister was saying, this is a very crucial period. So rather than get people to change their whole mode, just teach them the principles through that particular mode, okay? Now, Egypt is, we understand, the cradle of where it all started. All of the teachings, whether we believe they came in through Atlantis, you know, Egypt is where it started. It goes back to Egypt, okay? The problem that I have with most Christians is, and I have a lot of problem with Christians, especially Christian ministers. Egypt is, because of the fact that they knocked Egypt, we can understand that Egypt in its fall has problems because younger souls incarnated. And the souls that had Egypt in its heyday were highly advanced souls. So let's look at Egypt's teaching from that perspective, of where the highly advanced souls put it into place, okay? Which gives us a lot of feedback also on why we are here and what we came to do. You know, whatever we say about Christianity, we have to look at karma. We have to understand that if we were duped with the system, it's because we used the system at some time to dupe somebody else, and we misused the teachings. So let's thank God that our system was brought from Egypt here to America, presented as another system, but the same basic system, so now we can use it and straighten it out. A problem I have is people saying, oh, let's just throw the whole system on the side, you know, but all these folks are not going to change. So the thing we want to do is show these folks what the true system really is. Does that make sense? Okay. Now, we have found out by studying melanin that melanin is the chemical, the chief chemical, if you want to call it that, the chief, the original energy in the life process. All right? There can't be no life without melanin. And when there is melanin deficiency, and I'm talking about in the nervous system, throughout the whole system, then that's a diseased organism. So if we're talking about the Creator taking on a form, common sense would tell us that the Creator is not going to take on a form in a diseased organism. That's number one. Number two, in order for the Creator, let's look at the Creator as being, Jesus as being an incarnation of the Soul Logos. That every now and then the Creator takes on a physical form to come down and show us who we are. I was sitting here today listening to Sister Myra, and I was saying to myself that people are looking all over for God when God is right here. I'm looking at God right here, okay? And so when Myra is teaching or anybody is teaching, God is teaching me. So I'm sitting here, and it's not like God right there, right in front of us. And so once we understand that aspect of it, then we get a much clearer perspective on what this teaching actually is, and that in order for God to incarnate in human form, God has to have a perfect vehicle, a perfect vessel. Because the only body that could actually hold that kind of energy would have to be a melanin-laden body. I carry with me, for example, and they put these stones, these gems. This is called a black tourmaline. And the black tourmaline is the gem in all of the gem kingdom that carries, that has the potential to deflect negative energies. Okay? It deflects them, pushes it off. I wear it because when you shake hands, you pick through the energy up into your palm. And I try to get a lot of beauticians and barbers to wear it because you're handling through the hair all the time. Got you. So, if we found then that the blacker the vessel is, because, for example, in ancient Africa, the darker you were, the more you were revered. Because blue-black, you know what I mean? It used to hurt me when I lived in New Orleans, and I see these young, beautiful sisters trying to bleach themselves light. And I said, do you understand, sister, the blessing of being black? So we don't really understand in essence what black power is, okay? I'm really, really, really thankful that I've had such wonderful teachers and have been prepared in the way I have. One of my dreams has always been to help folks understand this system. I would sit sometime and cry, actual tears, knowing that Christianity is such a beautiful system if it's just taught in the right fashion, okay? All right. So in order for the Creator to incarnate, it had to be a black form, pitch black form, because of the fact that black absorbs so much energy and radiates it. Okay? So in order for the Creator to come as an avatar and be amongst us and do the healing work that the Creator did, whether he came as Jesus, Horus, Krishna, the principle is what matters. We have a tendency to get so caught up in the cultural aspects of it, we forget the other aspect of it. So after I know about Jesus being in a black body, well, what do I do with that? And many folks just stop there. The most important part of it is to understand how that relates to me as a soul, spirit in a black body at this point. You hear me? Okay? You there? Okay. So our job, those of us who are here, those of us who are getting a fuller picture of it, our job is to now go into our community and our family and help the people in our circle understand these teachings from a perspective that won't kick over all their furniture, but will show them how they can use the system. See, I really have a problem with brothers and sisters who have gotten this knowledge Now they want to go tell somebody, well, you heard about Horus and Osiris and Isis, so that's all God. No, no. Show me how to use this in a proper perspective. I stopped a brother on the subway one day who was a member of an Islamic group that moved from New York, Brooklyn to here. And they had this pamphlet. He was showing people the fallacy of Christmas and Easter. I said, brother, why don't you write some books on how to use it correctly, rather than just scratching it all off as being obsolete. So that's what we need to do. We need to understand that knowledge brings responsibility. You have to know how much to give to people and how to give it to them so you don't interfere with their spiritual walk. Okay? So now we have Jesus, the Immaculate Conception. The Immaculate Conception reminds us, or represents for us, it lets us know that in order for us to give birth to the Christ seed within ourselves, we have to have an Immaculate Conception. The woman, in Bible, in Scriptures, the woman represents the feminine, the soul, the vehicle through which the masculine manifests itself, okay? And so the first thing I have to do is I have to immaculatize, clean my soul, all right? So wherever you see in Scriptures the feminine, Mary, okay, or the other women in Scripture, whether it's Eve or Mary or whatever, it represents the feminine, intuitive, emotional side. And so this lets me know right here, then what I have to do is first immaculatize. That's how this relates to me. See, originally, in the Catholic Church, which of course fell also, but originally in the Catholic Church, or let me say in the esoteric aspects, every religion has an esoteric aspect, an exoteric. The esoteric relates to the inner, deeper, higher teachings that's just reserved for those people who are at that level of development. The exoteric is singing songs, burning incense, giving alms. That's the outer. Jesus says that he gave two teachings, one to the masses and one to his disciples. Okay? So the esoteric interpretation of it lets you know that people, they should use icons in the Catholic Church not to pray to them. When you have an altar with statue, you're not praying to the statues. The statues represent what your ultimate objective is. So this reminds me, for example, that what I have to do to give birth to my inner divinity is to purify my soul. You got it? And I also have to, the hand here, the right hand, the power hand lets me know that it has to be through, love has to happen. And we need to understand also the whole process of love, and that love is not an emotion, it's the energy, and if we understand how to use that love energy, we can harmonize ourselves, we can also harmonize our enemies. I don't have to like my enemy, but I can love my enemy if I understand what the energy represents. Okay? So let's just know that love is the major thing I need to immaculatize, to purify my soul. Okay? If I can take a moment, if it's okay with you, I want to talk a little about what love is, okay? Black power. We said so much earlier about black power. At the center of the universe, center of everything, we have this black energy, this black cohesive bonding energy that draws everything into a cohesive whole, draws otherwise incompatible energies into a tight bond, so tight that if the atom is split, we have the atomic explosion. That's black power. That's what the black fist really represents, black power, okay? That we have that ability, okay? What we're supposed to be doing with that ability is we're supposed to be using that to draw the universe together, to draw our community together, to draw those people who we consider our enemies, to help them become harmonious beings within themselves. Then they won't be so disruptive. Doesn't mean we have to like them, but we have to exert this energy and help them to harmonize themselves, okay? People say to me, well, brother, that's too idealistic, and we cannot focus on loving Caucasians. We have to get our own self together. But you see, at the rate the Caucasian is going, if we don't harmonize him, we won't have a chance to get ourselves together because he's destroying the planet that we are trying to coexist on. Okay? Right as we speak, there's somebody sitting with their hand on the bomb in case they think they should push it off and blow everything up. So we have to take that on as a responsibility. So the love energy says, first thing we have to do is get rid of all this hate, all this resentment, okay, at the center of our being. That's the first law, harmony. So what happens is once this energy here at the center of the atom that's holding everything together, all right, it then is responsible for the community. It commands unity. It holds everything into its grasp. Now, why is that not working? That's not working in the Christian world because we don't understand how to activate our heart chakra, our heart center. We haven't learned it, and we'll talk about that today. That's the missing link. We go to church every Sunday. We talk Jesus, to us, we blue in the face, but we really don't understand the inner dimensions of that teaching, okay? So once that happens, okay, and we actually activate our heart center, then we're able to bring in this higher spiritual energy. It's suicidal for African Americans or people of color not to be spiritual because our melanin makes us super sensitive. We draw everything to us. When you hear the black of the bird is sweet as juice, it's because black is all absorptive. So we absorb the essence of everything. That's why we have so many nervous breakdowns, so much stress, so much high blood pressure, hypertension, all that. Because we're psychic sponges, you see? So we don't have a choice, life or death, but we have to be into something spiritual. We have to begin to treat this instrument as the spiritual organism that it really is. Okay? In order for us to understand a religion, we have to understand it on three levels. On the cosmic level, the historical level, and the mystical level. The cosmic level, which Sister Myra was talking to us about also, deals with how the religion relates to cosmic truth, laws, and principles. The historical level talks about how that religion relates to the manifestation of God in the flesh and the records that he or she left, during that particular period. The mystical relates to that spiritual essence within us and how we can manifest that, how we get into our inner self. And that's why the scriptures say Christ in you is your hope of glory, manifesting our inner divinity. You see? If we stick just to principles, we'll understand that Christianity is a science of divinity, a solar-based science of divinity. It's somewhat lazy for a person just to leave something rather than figure out how to straighten it out. It's very easy for us to say, later for Christianity, I'm going to just go be this. But from my perspective, it's our job to straighten the system out. Because of the fact that our community, I don't think we're going to be anything else. We'll either be dumb, backwards, ignorant Christians, or we'll be enlightened. Okay? The beautiful thing about being in this melanin-laden body is that we have the potential to do some awesome things that we don't, yet still don't have any idea of. The essence of Christianity is what? The essence is Christ in you, the hope of glory. Which means that, what does the word Christ mean? The word Christ is from the Greek Christos, and Christos means anointed. And so if we understand the Son as being a living, organic, intelligent being, and if we understand that this human form is an electromagnetic organism, then we understand that Christianity in its essence is a system that shows us how to become anointed by the highest potencies of solar energy and open all our centers, all our spiritual centers. The halo is just not something that's make-believe. The halo is a real light that goes through, comes into a person's system, and you know, when that person is cleansed, when that person has prepared themselves for this anointment. You see, it really hurts me when I look at evangelists on TV at least 4 or 5 times a week. It inspires me. It hurts to watch that foolishness, but it inspires me to do what we're doing here today, because it's desperately needed, because it's going beyond. There never was a time for all the emotionalism, but it's going to a point where we have to begin to understand this as a science and what it means to us, and how understanding it and practicing it would make our communities paradise. Okay? One of the pioneering souls who probably taught more Christian principles than most Christian ministers was Elijah Muhammad, because he taught that each person is a God, that each one of us is a micro-God, not a bum, not a prostitute, not a criminal, you know, not a sinner, but a sleeping God, a sleeping goddess. Doesn't mean we don't sin, but that's not our identity. We're not sinners. It's like the teacher said, every saint has a past, every sinner has a future. Okay? So, if we understand that Christianity is a solar-based science of divinity, then we understand that we as people of color have a particularly important role in manifesting it. We're waiting for a people who are still genetically working out their cave experiences to do a job that we're specifically designed to carry out. They can't do it. It's not that they don't want to do it. They can't do it. You can't expect the people who cannot keep the rhythm of a song to tune into the rhythm of the universe. It's too much to ask of them. Okay? We're here to do that. We see that our Caucasian brothers and sisters are so caught up into their synthetic, unnatural being that they think it's better to clone than to prolong their life. They just don't have it. And we're following along with them. You see, they're in their cave mentality, and we're still in the slave mentality. So I go to somebody black and say, this is earth. My doctor said don't do that. Or the Bible says such and such. And I say, you know what would you do if there wasn't no Bible? You know, and what are you talking about this being incurable? If Jesus raised the dead, if dead ain't incurable, how could arthritis be incurable? Okay? So we have to really get to understand what's actually happening with both of us. They're still in the cave. When's the last time you had a dog walk across your table? Huh? When's the last time you had a dog lick you in your mouth? Huh? Okay, that's who they are. And so that's okay. But it's time for us to take this to a whole nother level and really realize who we are. That we were born here for the specific purpose of raising this Caucasian mentality and spiritualizing the world and letting our influence spread across the world. So it's not accidental. You see, the thing I also try to tell people is that the Bible is the book of principles. Stop trying to make it a history book. When you have a book that, if I bring you a book and I say to you, this book I want you to base your life on. You say, okay, brother. First thing you want to know, though, is where's the bibliography? Who wrote this book? What's the references? Okay. The Bible has no bibliography. All we have is Mark, John, Matthew, and Luke. And they don't have no history as far as we know. I'm not knocking it. I'm just saying that history, we need to use it as a book of principles. It's excellent for that. It can show us how we can get to the highest spiritual level. But as soon as we start getting into using it as a history book, we run into problems. Okay? And so that's the thing. Then we need to understand, thank you, sister, also that religions are, this picture here we're talking about, this picture is giving us universal principles that are applicable to every religion. The thing that I love about Christianity as a science, okay, is that it is a universal system applicable to anyone on any spiritual path. Whether I'm a Muslim, a Buddhist, a Hindu, a Yoruba, a Taoist, a shaman, whatever it is, I have to go the same path. I have to immaculatize my soul, okay? And I have to do it through opening my heart chakra, because that's my sun center. I have to open my sun center in order to harmonize the other aspects of me. One problem we have, serious problem, we need to begin to understand spiritual laws and principles. How many people in here believe that what goes around comes around? Okay, now remember you say that. How many people believe that what goes around comes around all the time? Huh? All the time. All the time? Okay. If that's true, then the African Holocaust, the Indian Holocaust, the Jewish Holocaust were workings of this same law. Okay? We're quick to say that September 11th, and I heard somebody say when Kennedy got shot, the chicken came home to roost. But we don't really want to understand that what happened to us was also chickens coming home to roost. And then we can learn from that. Somebody asked Mark Twain what were the two most famous words in the English language. He said, not guilty. Everybody wants to be a victim. You know, the words that irritated me the most about this September 11th thing was innocent victims, innocent victims. You see? So, these universal laws and principles are applicable. So it lets us know that when listen to this carefully, I want to go from the conception of the idea to the ascension in Christianity to show the universality of it. When I decide I am going to be a Muslim, a Christian, a Yoruba, whatever, that is the birth of that ideal within me. And the birth of that ideal within me then is represented by the sign of Virgo, okay? The Virgin, okay? Virgo, all right? Now, that ideal is balanced in Libra. That ideal it becomes a real powerful desire in Scorpio. And then in Sagittarius, I get a full perception. And Christmas time, that ideal is born. Okay? So the Immaculate Conception is when anybody decides, when anybody's soul is pure enough, not all pure, but pure enough for them to embrace a spiritual ideal. That's the one phase of the Immaculate. That's when the pregnancy takes place. Okay? Then, at Christmas time, it represents the birth of that ideal. I'm going to do that. I'm going to really be a Christian. I'm going to do my best to do that. Okay? And then, that ideal is born in a stable, in this animal form, amongst these animal desires, okay? And then I start to tell my friends, I'm going to join this church. And then the Herod mentality starts. Well, you stupid, let's kill that idea. You're not going to, I've been smoking joints with you all the time. You ain't going to be nothing but you. Just another bag you're getting into. That's the Herod mentality, okay? But I stick it in. And then I try to find a place around my friends and my associates in terms of what I want to be about. I can't find a room at the inn because I get rejected. That happens in any spiritual path I'm on. And then then we run into the Judas mentality. Everybody has a Judas factor. And so we find that the Judas factor is your chief feature. Our chief negative hang-up that sells us out over and over again, that justifies, that makes excuses for, that finds fault, that sells us out all the time. Okay? Then when we find out what that chief feature is, it self-destructs. That's the suicide of it. And then our false self is crucified. And then our real self comes out, evolves. That's every religion. That's every spiritual path. That's how the system is supposed to be taught. So a Christian minister should be telling people, you are God in the making. That Jesus is not an example, he's not an exception, he's an example. That God took on a physical form to show you and I, this is who you are. This is what this physical form is capable of achieving. You're God. One of your teardrops, the power in one teardrop can blow up a 14-story building. So while we're sitting there moaning, look at that sleeping God. The gods have to be laughing at us. Look at sleeping God, crying because they think they're going to get dispossessed. Look at them. Okay? And all this God needs is to just wake up to who they are. So it's not a question of us. You see, think of the fact that in the orange seed has a picture of a perfect orange. All it has to do is unfold. So we're already perfect. We just have to unfold. Or think of a lamp with 4 coverings over it. Just take the covers off, and the lamp is there already. So our biggest problem is we have spiritual amnesia. We have forgotten who we are. That's it. That's the only problem. Okay? So if you say to somebody, I am God, it's true. What was the name of God in the Old Testament? I am that I am. When somebody asks you, what's your name? What do you say? I am such and such a person. So we're declaring our divinity every day. We just haven't accepted it yet. Because we say in the church, it's blasphemous when we say that. Jesus said it. Before Abraham was, I am. I am. Okay? Christ in us. So the Christ picture, so what they're saying, in each one of us there's this perfect spiritual being. Just has to unfold. And Christianity, being the science that it is letting us know that whatever system you're in, the Christian minister should be teaching everybody, go to some religion. Whatever one you want to go to, just go. In other words, you have a law. You have to send your child to school. The universal law is that you have to go get on some spiritual path and manifest your higher self. Whatever it is. It may be that you were Muslim in your past lifetime. You may have been a Buddhist, whatever it was. Go wherever path attracts you. But be that. Okay? Are we on the right path? Okay? All right. We're now moving through Lent. Lent tells us about the preparation we have to have. If you look around the picture here, you'll see that, and we're not going to go in depth through, but you see that there are images around the picture. And the images around the picture represent those 14 stations. In the Catholic Church, they talk about the 14 stations of the cross. Okay? The 14 stations, and it's in the Bible too, are those places on the cross when we're going towards our spiritual realization. Each person goes through. Okay? So lets us know that there are 14 stations each person has to go through on the way to awakening themselves spiritually. Everybody goes through that, no matter what religious system that they're involved in. Okay? So that once we understand what those stations are, which we talk about on Palm Sunday, and how we can move through them, then we have a system by which we understand. You know, it's like any journey that we're on, we make more progress if we understand what we have to do to get to our destination. Okay? In order for us to get to the high spiritual level and have that immaculate conception, this crown represents the opening of our highest crown, our crown chakra. Okay? It lets us know that when we get to, we have these 7 chakras, right? Beginning from the base of the spine, all the way up to the top of the head. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, okay? All the way up. And when we open the crown chakra, that's what this crown represents. Okay? The all-seeing eye on the back of the dollar bill is also one of these chakras. All right? So it shows us that This is the goal. So we sit, and when we look at this picture, we see that this is a symbol of what our spiritual aspirations are. We're not praying to a picture. It's reminding us. It's like a person may have a cross in their house, a crucifixion, or they may have the Star and Crescent. Each religion represents the goal of the human experience, which is to unite. In Christianity, it's the yang and the yin. In Islam, it's the yang and the yin. Judaism, it's the yang and the yin. In the Chinese system, Taoism, it's the yang and the yin. It's all saying the same thing. So you see, you really find out how much experience people have had, how much studying they've done, by their understanding of the connectiveness of all the systems. When I was in India, in the Himalayas in '68, we had masters from Islamic teaching, Sufis, we had master yogis, we had Christian monks, we had imams in Islam, all there together, touching each other's feet, worshiping the God in each other. That's the higher teaching. When you see people arguing about their way is the only way, you really know how much studying they've done. Not much. Okay? Because the only way is truth. The only way is light. All right? And if God is defined as light, then the goal for us to get closer to God, to our higher self, is to position ourselves to take in more light. Okay? If you ask the person, for example, what is spirituality? What does it actually mean to grow spiritually? Growing spiritually consists of making this physical organism more receptive to higher and higher frequencies of light. Okay? Huh? Growing spiritually means purifying and cultivating this physical organism so it can take in higher and higher frequencies of light. Once that happens, then this inner Christ child, our divinity, okay, let me say this, okay? In the Christian system, we call our divinity the Christ child. In the Hindu system, it's called the Atman, Atman. Okay? In theosophy, it's called a monad. Okay? Same. In the Egyptian mystical system, the Ra element. Okay? Same energy, our divinity. One of the major focuses in the Egyptian mystical system was for us to deify the human personality. So that's our goal. That's our destiny in life. We're here, Jesus tells his disciples what? Be ye perfect as your Father in heaven. We have an innate desire to be perfect. Whatever you do, you can bet that you'll always be trying to do that perfect. Trying to cook the perfect meal, trying to sew the perfect garment, trying to put together the perfect program, trying to write the perfect book. Why is that so? Because we know in our heart of hearts that we are perfect in our essence. Okay? So because we're not addressing the purpose of life, the purpose of life is what? To achieve that, to evolve totally. So what God does is God takes on a physical form and says, you know what? When you have opened up every one of your brain cells and all of your chakras and all of your spiritual potentials, this is what you're going to be like. This is who you are. And that's the message that we should, so what we should be hearing every Sunday, because the gospel is supposed to be good news. It's not to beat me down, bribe me, wish I hadn't come to church. You know, I ain't worthy to live looking God. Wretched child I am. I'm not worthy to look in the eyes of God. All that foolishness. They should be telling me every Sunday that, reminding me, you are a God. That's what you're here to manifest. Do what it is that you have to do to make that happen. Get all this negative stuff out of your mind. Stop beating yourself down. Okay, understand that you are in a form that has to deal, that evolves. In other words, you're growing slowly, okay? You're unfolding. Since the church has made us think that evolution is a bad word, okay? That you're unfolding. And that there is no punishing God. See, we have to get them kind of concepts out of our mind. Why would God make a creature who is going to who's going to grow in stages and then condemn that creature while it's growing? That don't make sense. So this is the kind of concept that they have our mind shackled with. There's no punishing God. We're punished by our sins, not for our sins. In other words, what goes around comes around. If I violate the law of karma, if I violate the law of magnetism and jump off a bridge and hit the ground, God didn't punish me. My ignorance of the law punished me. When people keep doing something, in other words, if there's a ricochet, in other words, we live in a universe that has boomerang, okay? In other words, energy comes back to its initial source, or there couldn't be no forms. In other words, we have to have energy that starts from a point, goes out, comes back to that point. Okay? If that was not the case, if that was not the case, you see what I'm saying? Then we couldn't have any life forms, because you have to have something that's going to come back to make that tangential circuit, or you couldn't have no life forms. That's the law. What goes around comes to its source. So God's not punishing me if I give birth to a deformed child. If something happens to me, God is not angry. God wasn't angry at the World Trade Center and made that happen. God's not angry with America. We're doing it to ourselves. It got to get us spooked. God is in a whole nother place in terms of that consciousness. And that's what they use to keep us ignorant, to keep us in fear. It's like Adolf Hitler said. I give emotional appeal to the masses. I give a few an intellectual edge. The masses are always frightened to death. That's how you get to them. Amtrak, oh my goodness. You know, that's how we do it. So we have to get those once we understand spiritual laws and principles, the universe, the law of correspondence, the law of mentalism, okay, the law of cause and effect, all these are laws. I couldn't drive in Georgia if I don't understand the laws that govern traffic. Right? We can't be successful in life because we don't understand the laws. If I stand here and I keep thinking negative and I keep saying negative things, that's going to keep bringing negative stuff into my life. If I think small, I'm going to keep having small, petty experiences. The people who I associate with, they're going to charge me with whatever their energy is. And so I have to understand that the way to improve my condition mainly is to understand spiritual laws and principles. That everything that I do is creative. Everything that I do. If I'm sitting here hating somebody, you see, we don't understand that disliking anybody or hating anybody is drawing that very energy to me. Because thoughts are things. Thoughts are electromagnetic. The very person that you can't stand, we keep drawing that kind of person to our life because thought is magnetic, electromagnetic. And so the problem we have in the church, instead of all this emotionalism, all that foolishness in church, teach the people something. That's what we need. That's why I don't really like the word preacher. Teacher. Don't preacher, please. Teach. That's what it is about. And that would help us to get out of the place that we're at now. Cleansing ourselves then has to start physical. We are five-dimensional. We have a body, a mind, emotions, a soul, and a spirit. That's what the five-pointed star represents, okay? So our job then is to cleanse each level. And in cleansing each level, so we start with the physical. And that for many of us, brothers and sisters, is rough. Because food is addictive, because it's made addictive by the manufacturers to keep us buying it. And as soon as you tell, let me say what a blessing is a curse. African people, or people of color, African Americans, our melanin is a blessing. It gives us a very intense, sensual experience. It turns into a curse when that sensual experience gets us in its grips and won't let us go. See, we taste a pork chop all down to our pores, everything, you know? See? Our sensual experience is so intense that, and the manufacturers know it. Open a chicken shack and a record store in our neighborhood, and we'll never get to the corner. If we do, we'll get there dancing and eating. You see? You see? That's what's holding us back. Our sensual, the very senses that the Creator gave us to have this tremendous blissful experience, spiritually, is keeping us bound to the physical level. I was given church services in St. Thomas in 1983, and I cooked. And even though they were vegetarian foods, I said, I'm not cooking no more, because you always come to eat. You know what happened? Half the people didn't come to church. Census. And so you find if black people don't have the food and the music, they ain't come to church. See, that's the deal. So we got to get from another place. You see? As long, and why can't we get our act together? Because as long as black people have sensual pleasures, you can tear down a neighborhood. Harlem looks like Berlin before the war, after the war, okay? And you got brothers and sisters riding down the street, smoking a joint, with a boombox skating in this emptiness. So in order to get us out of that, we have to almost have our senses starved to see, oh man, it's really an emergency. So that's a problem for us. You see? What we've gotten caught up in is we're in a society in which they've been studying melanin since 1917. So they know that melanin has pitfalls. They know Michael Jordan can fly through the air. You know, we can do all the fantastic things we can do because of our melanin. But they also know that the weakness, what melanin's kryptonite is. And that's cocaine, crack, nicotine, menthol, Cools, Newport, and alcohol. You see? So this is the task that we have, you see. We have to encourage our folks to understand that in order for us to get our spiritual act together, we have to start with the physical. We have to, and we can't do it, but God can do it. Whether it's Allah, Jesus, Jehovah, whatever God we pray to, God can pull us up. That's the first level. Learn how to use this physical energy, our sexual energies, in a spiritual, uplifting way. What we eat, what we listen to, our art forms on this physical level. Then we can go to the mental. Start seeing ourselves differently. Then the mental level. You know, see who we are from a clear mental perspective. Start broadening our vision. Just like the Bible says, be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind. Then we go to the next level, which is the emotional level. Get rid of all this hate, all this dislike, all this resentment,